This video is for 2020 Brendan, who was super lost, feeling stuck, forced to get spinal surgery if he didn't figure it out. I want you to understand, bro, before you give up on your back, you have a few things that you need to try. And you know so much of exercise science. You've studied it. You've been a trainer for years. You've been grinding hard as an athlete. This feels unfair. And like you've tried everything. And the truth is, you don't even know what you don't know. And so this video is going to be about what I want you to understand before you give up on your low back. This is also going out to a specific member in the BBB who I talked to today, who was feeling stuck, and I just relate on such a visceral level. I'm going to put it on YouTube because I know a lot of people also relate. So look, before we give up on something as central to us as our core and our midsection, there's a few things I want us to really think about and consider. It's not about just these exercises to demonstrate. I just want to see, look, if 3 years ago I saw myself doing this, I would have panicked. And so the fact that I know where I came from and avoiding all movement and feeling fearful like my life is over, to now making videos showing how to do that exact stuff and build up to it on a progression, I only show it just for the full transparency of the story. So if we go back to the starting point, I want to talk about what this video is going to be about. I always give the synopsis in the beginning. One, we're going to go over the facts, what you need to know before you give up on your low back. Straight, brunt facts you're not going to get around. Two, the test that is really going on here for you as you struggle with your low back. And three, the hope, because I believe there is always hope. And so first, the most blatant fact, let's get straight out the way, why you cannot give up on your low back right now, Brendan, is because you will always have a low back. So I know you've been trying to lift and start to brace your way out of pain and thinking, if I can just squat a little bit better or a little bit more shallow, change the form, avoid the low back, that one day you're going to wake up and it won't hurt. But I'm sorry to tell you, just as you're reminded, every time you sneeze too hard, every time you tie your shoe wrong, the re-injuries, your back is with you for life, every single day. And I know you didn't realize you had a low back until you injured it. You took it for granted, and now you're realizing every moment you move wrong, it's there. This isn't a curse, this is an opportunity. And so we can't give up on training our low back because it's not going to give up on us. It is always going to be here. So avoidance will never work. And I know you don't believe in avoidance, but after years of pain, you're starting to buy into the experts telling you to avoid it. And so the second fact we should go into is just that no issue does better untrained. There is no part of the body that if you wrap it up in a cast and do not use it to any degree, it will come out stronger. You will always atrophy. You will always decay. We've seen this with avoidance of the knees. Knees over toes guy laid out a whole new path for exercise science and human longevity and saving decades of people's lives, because the same thing was told there. Do not get into a full knee bend. Do not subject your knees to a knee over toe bend because it's pressure. Obviously, pressure could be bad or good. It's the dosage. Same exact thing with the low back. That Jefferson curl I showed, let's look on a video, an extremely heavy Jefferson curl. That would have broken you 3 years ago. But now you can do it because you learned that you can build up to things on a gradient scale. This is the same progression. You may have even had to start with just your hands and slowly work to 60-pound stimulus, the strength of a 10-year-old's back. That's where you had. And from there you grew and further. So understanding no tissue does better untrained. We just need to get creative on the entry point and be patient. And so the third thing, camera guy with,
you a little baddie. You my little boo thing.
Leave it in, Luca. We got camera guy with his ringtone, 2007 Verizon ringtone. That's embarrassing. Okay. And the third thing is you've already had an unsuccessful surgery in your body. I know a lot of people here may actually relate. Even when you decide to say, F it, I'm giving up, I'm conceding to get the surgery. That is almost a sigh of relief sometimes, because it's like, at least at least I'm gonna finally just do something that's gonna work. It sucks, the recovery is gonna be there, but let's get me fixed. And so I had my first surgery in 2016 for my patellar tendon because I didn't know how to fix tendonitis. And so the tough thing, I had partial tears all in my tendon. I spent a year recovering from that surgery. Had weird nerve pain that came all through the lateral side of my thigh, and to this day I have numbness all on the side of my shin. I can't feel anything here when I touch. It's not life-changing, but the toughest part about it was once I rehabbed from the actual stitches, from all the soft tissue injury that is surgery, I realized I still have tendonitis. I can't play soccer. I can't run. So I wasted a year. I learned for a year that even after surgery, whatever was going wrong in the first place didn't get addressed. And so while you may have cut some of the smoke from the fire, you have ember burning still. Put some oxygen on that, it's gonna combust again. And so we could fan it, we could try to just damper it, but unless we really get to the root of understanding, why did my knees hurt? Well, it's because I never trained what I showed earlier, this scale of ability from a slight bend to a moderate bend to the extreme bend of this stuff, right? And so if we could be patient enough, we could really reverse engineer anything that looks impossible. If you're a human and you have tissue, anatomy determines some things. It determines how your attachment points are. It determines certain muscle belly differences, certain hip socket arrangements. Some things may change, but the fact is most people can get to a full squat without a butt wink. Most people can get to spinal flexion that's not painful without nerve pain. This stuff shouldn't be feared. And so if we understand this didn't happen overnight, so before you give up on your back, realize the solution by nature, by law, cannot be overnight either. Reversing out all the dysfunction that happened over years is gonna take at least months if we're super diligent, right? And so second, let's get into, Brendan, why are you in the test of your life? Why are you gonna learn the most from this out of all the years in exercise science school, trying to study as an academia nerd, trying to be an elite athlete, train yourself to the ground, everything you tried to figure out to prepare yourself for this, you were failed and you're still in pain. This is going to teach you more through honest humility and despair. So the first thing I would offer for anybody, including myself, before you give up on your low back is to give direct low back ability training 1 full year of effort. And I'm not saying the trademark LBA, my Instagram, not low back ability, my stuff. Doesn't have to be the BBB. Doesn't even have to be the specific exercises that I like. Just the approach of taking the fearful movements and positions of your low back. Usually flexion, maybe lateral flexion, and let's scale it back to something that doesn't put fear in your tissue and build from there for weeks. And then go further for months and give it a whole honest 12 months stacked back to back without flaring yourself up, without being in a rush, without checking if the water's boiling every 2 weeks. Am I better? Am I better? Give it a whole year before you decide that you're done on the bad back guy. Okay? And in the process, we're going to try to put every card in your favor that goes into this game of back pain. And if we break it down super quick, the obvious place to start, I'm gonna link in the full video on this progression, is the low back direct rebuild tool, the back extension. Starting with a hold, starting with single leg holds after, and regaining modest flexion with assistance. So we're opening up the back. This isn't just working muscles. This isn't a bodybuilder mindset when it comes to training. We need the joints to regain trust. We need the tissue in between the discs. We need the intervertebral juice, everything that's in there that can go wrong, the discs. We need to give it time to rebuild. And I can show the whole, let's put the steps right here. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 levels to the low back rebuild on the back extension. This process looks plain on paper, but someone who's had chronic pain in their back is going to get stumped at least 10 times, and you're going to have to just draw it back, go easier, make changes, and stay patient. And so direct low back rebuild, we need to put the cards in our favor of mobility. If you are trying to open your hip flexors just for 5-10 seconds in between your sets like this, thinking that's enough to change your structure, but you're nowhere near a split squat with a straight leg in the back, then we're missing the step-by-step process to getting more opened up. And so I'm gonna just use a lot of clips in this YouTube video of other stuff I've made for simplicity's sake. If we open up our split squat and couch stretch very measurably, very slow over time, that's going to change the psoas major and the length of it and how it will pull on the front of your spine. After which we can go laterally if we open up the outer hips with the pigeon stretch and we make the hips even left to right. Then when we get into our QL mobility and our stretches and standing QL raise, that's going to even out left to right the pull on the spine of that muscle that goes from the hip to the spine. And then the direct back work is going to even out a lot of the back. So if we take a 360 core approach to balancing out the imbalance, to fixing the mobility issues, to directly strengthening the low back, you're putting everything in your favor before you give up. The amount of people that I've met that say I'm a hopeless case, dude, you don't understand. I've had it for decades. I've tried this therapy, I've tried decompression, I've tried X, Y, Z thing, and then we just put them through basic strength and they're an F on everything. It makes sense. You've been avoiding it. Of course you wouldn't be good at it, but how could you give up on passing this grand test if you've never studied? How could you think you're hopeless when you haven't planted the seeds that take a year plus long to sprout? And so taking that patience, being curious about your pain for the setbacks, I can tell you the things that kept re-injuring me that I currently teach. I didn't have as much of an issue with the flexion as I did with extension. So the seated good morning, I've injured myself a number of times, and it's because it used to look like this. Bad. Rounded back forcing it, really tight hips. And so getting curious about why do I keep getting hurt in extension is what led me to realizing maybe these back extension holds have more value than I think. Even though I can do flexion, why do I get toasted in that SI joint when I just hold right here? So me being curious about my extension and tolerance led me to building up strength in this iso hold, opening up my butterfly stretch so my knees were closer to the ground, and then I could get back to seated good morning without pain in my back. So get curious about your pain. Don't just shut it down and think it's a bad exercise. And so we're going to wrap up now with the hope. I have written down here, the first point of hope is that you are the solution, always. I just want you to know that every practitioner you see, I'm still speaking to 2020 Brendan, who's lost. This may resonate with you as well, but every doctor you see, every physical therapist you see, every expert trainer that you're going to DM, and because you DM'd all of them, whether they responded or not, the programs you're going to buy, the physical therapy protocols you're going to scour off the internet, all of that, these are assistance tools to you fixing your own back. Nobody and nothing is going to fix your back for you. You're not going to buy the right lumbar roll, the right psoas tool, the right inversion table that's going to fix it for you. It's not going to work like that. You're not going to meet the one trainer, the one physical therapist, the one expert who's going to figure out all of your stuff in your back for you and you're fixed. They are serving as tools, and you're going to piece together stuff from trying all of it because you are the expert of your body. I truly believe this just in general with life. You are the solution always. Literally, every injury I've had, it was a lack of knowledge that someone could give me, but then the application and the nuance I had to give to myself, it doesn't feel good today. Let me slow it down. It doesn't feel good to just dive into a super deep knee bend, even though I heard it's good on the internet. Well, I also heard that it's good to scale back and regress. So the same on the low back. You will fix this. You are the expert of your back. Take all of the info that you can from this and apply it. So I know this is a long-winded speech. I wrote on this whiteboard iPhone 7 battery. This is going to be a bad analogy. But at the same time I had low back pain and I was stuck with it, I also had my friend's iPhone 7 that he gave me. And if you've ever had like a really outdated phone, usually the battery is trash. And if you leave the house at 8 a.m., you're like dealing with a 5% battery before it's even noon. So I remember the irony of this. It was like usually right around the time my phone would die, 11 a.m. every single day, my back would start to get flared up and achy just from standing and existing. And I remember just feeling like, man, drawing this analogy, when you have a bad battery, all you want to do is just keep it on the charger, plug it up, plug it up, plug it up, and keep it charging because you can't afford to be away. And I've noticed back then myself and even clients now, the urge to just rest and heal your pain with rest is always going to be there. And it actually can push you away from training the low back. And of course, a period of rest and acute injury is needed, but if you keep trying to just keep your iPhone battery charged, that's a dinosaur, you're going to have to charge it all your life. And the truth is you just need a better battery. Basically what I'm getting at. It's the same thing with the low back. You can rest and you will always feel better when you're fresh. When you're rested, it will always feel better. But if you have a bad back and the top percentage it can feel is on a good day 60%, it's still only going to charge up to 60%. Your back is still going to feel bad by 3 p.m. And so what I'm trying to get at with this is it will drain you a little bit to use your back, just like it drains your phone to use your battery. But the difference between batteries and backs is like you can rebuild your back. You can actually change the total output potential of your back to where right now in 2023, from training my low back over years, my bad days now are 10 times better than my good days then. So even on the best rested, my sleep was good, my recovery was good. I didn't lift yesterday, my back was fresh. If I sat in a chair for 20 minutes, I'm shifting and I'm aching and I'm in pain. Where now I could literally mess up a squat so bad and hurt my back for whatever reason, and it still feels better post-tweak than it did on a good day back then. And that's the bulletproof reserve. That's the protection you build through all of this work. And so, yeah, my hope with this is just to encourage you again to play the long game, to realize this isn't just dogmatic training rhetoric. This isn't feel-good stuff. If you plant seeds, it takes a very long time of watering where you don't see anything till it shoots out and sprouts. The back is the same thing. You can't try it for 2 weeks, get on here, train it a little bit, feel some relief, not so much, give it 2 weeks, and then you're like, I think I'm still hopeless. You can't give up on your back. There's no plan B. There's no out. Life doesn't stop until you're gone, and you're going to be here for a long time. So it's not over until it's over. You're not hopeless. You may have lacked guidance and knowledge, but now you have it. Now you have a route, and even if it's not perfect for you, you're going to navigate and fill in the gaps. I received from the very first BBB member today a full breakdown of his story, and I'll put it on the screen. And this guy was like super stuck. I'll say KM was his name. KM, he's a pro soccer player, and he has access to some of the best training in the world. And even then has been through surgery, still stuck. Still trying to stay in shape and avoid his back. And these are commonalities I've seen from high schoolers DMing me to literally guys on the New York Yankees messaging me with the same issue of back avoidance and feeling hopeless and trying to figure it out. And so we just need to take a long game. We need to accept that we don't have to pause our whole life. We just need to take this serious, build slowly, steady steps. if anything out of this whole rant, it just reaches the person right when they need it before they're feeling like hands up, I'm done, because that's where I was at too. You don't know how close you may be to your breakthrough. And sometimes the pain is misleading. You go through 2 weeks of pain, you might think the past 6 months of training was for nothing. It's not true. So I hope this gives some clarity. And I know I didn't break down the exercises in specific like normal, but this was a recurring theme in my program. And I know it's going to save somebody. So appreciate y'all. If you need any more help, the BBB is available. Put the link wherever, you know the whole deal. Check the description. Shoot me a comment if there's anything else you want to hear. And yeah, keep it going. Peace.